Going on, ladies and gentlemen? We're here with the Everyday Game Changers, one of the best podcasts to be on the lookout for. Representing Tony Visions, David Woods. Make sure to check us out. Got the new Genesis collection coming out this whole year. Let's flood the streets.
Welcome to the Everyday Game Changers podcast. You will hear from everyday people in business, music, community, and more who are changing the game. And now your host, marketing expert, and personal branding specialist, Barion McQueen.
Welcome to the Everyday Game Changers podcast. I am your host, Barion McQueen, and I got a special guest with me. If you in South Florida, even if you in New York City, you in Rome, you probably familiar with my man.
Yes, sir.
Mr. David Woods.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me,
bro. The specialist behind the brand, Tony Visions. How are you, bro?
I'm coolin', man. I'm alive and kicking, bro.
That's good, man. Yeah. Talk to me about, so for me, being in the photography space, I've probably seen about every model in South Florida at one point in time wearing some Tony Visions. Like, how do you even get? Right, bro. How do you get that many people onto the brand? Like,
I mean, it's like why I call it street luxury, man. Like in the beginning, I've been doing Tony Visions for 4 years now.
Okay.
I've been designing and working with clothing brands for like 6-7 years. So I mean, the slogan was luxury from the people for the people. Like,
that's dope.
I really started it from the ground up.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't start with nothing, no silver tray, nothing. Like, we literally just were out there, just in the streets with it. Like, you know, working with people, like organically working with people. You know, starting off with tons of collabs. You know, dopeness sees dopeness, and you work together and you help each other in that sense. And in the beginning, it was like, you know, I'm not putting myself over nobody, still to the day, but, you know, you vibe with the right people. It's like you feel that vibe. It's organic, dope. And we just we cultivate the culture, like, you know.
That's a vibe. Like, so, like, if I'm thinking, like, so I seen your, shout out to the dudes at Midnight Miami. I did watch that podcast. Yeah, as a journalist, I gotta do my due diligence, right? So, that was a great interview. So, I don't really want to touch on the same stuff they touched on, but I want to talk about, like, you probably didn't know you was going to be in this space of fashion, right?
Nah,
so, like, what's the young David Woods thinking about as a kid? Like, when people are like, oh, I want to be a firefighter, or I want to. What did you want to be before all this?
As a kid, like not even like a teenager.
Not even a teenager, like as a kid.
I mean, shoot, I played soccer when I was young. I wanted to be a soccer player. I think at some point I wanted to be like the cops with dogs, like the canine officers and stuff.
So as you get
older,
as
a young pure kid and stuff like
So as you get older into those like teen years, did you see any of this?
Nah, bro. I mean, I could never even imagine doing anything that dealt with fashion until after high school.
Wow.
Like, all of that. Yeah.
Damn.
You know, like, it would never cross my mind.
So it's like on accident, basically. Like,
I mean, I think everything has its
clothes.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, you know, in high school, I would match my boxers to my threads on my shoes. Like, people, like, there's some people, like, to this day, like, I'm close with them, though. They used to bring that up to me. I mean, like, we were talking about shoes earlier, sneakers. I dealt with a little bit of, like, we was fly, you know, in high school. We was just fly, but that's it. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to start making clothes, like, all that. It seemed weird, like, be like, I'm a designer and doing a runway model, like, that didn't ever cross my mind. Like,
so what's that transition like for, like, not having the experience and then you get into your first runway show? Was it like, I'm sure, was you nervous? Was you scared? Or was it like, I hope everything don't go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like anything I do today, I just kind of like walk through faith with certain things.
Right.
Like when I started with just a clothing brand where we were just printing shirts, you know, stuff like that.
Okay.
But then I decided to actually learn how to make pieces. Once I learned how to make pieces, that's how you start making these customs and stuff. And my boy came through and he was like, yo, you should do runway show. I'm like, runway show? What does that even like mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like, so he put me in. I'm just like, whatever, let's do it.
That's dope.
And then it was a dope show, dope venue, and then just seeing the way that the crowd reacts to everything and that's when you get that sense of like empowerment. It's like, damn, just putting models or people in these jackets, it's like they feel like Superman at some point, you know. So that's when I was like, all right, let's do this. Like,
so when you get into it though, do you go back and say, like, I want to really understand the history of fashion, or do you have like some specific designers that you was like, oh, okay, like I like this designer, and they really go into the history of it? Or
I mean, when I first started getting into it like that, I definitely did my research.
Okay.
I spent a lot of nights like watching documentaries, learning stuff, seeing like a lot of designers and brands. Like, I like to focus on people's vision more than what their brand is, and like what their purpose is. Like, and you know what I mean? It's like people buy you, they don't buy like what you sell.
That's a fact.
You know what I mean? So it's like, who is the person who's actually doing it? Yeah,
right.
And
so who would you say?
I mean, the top dog to me is Alexander McQueen. That's honestly like the only.
Told y'all that McQueen last name hold weight.
Shout out to Ireland.
Shout out to my people in Scotland. The people in Ireland told me my last name McQueen ain't Irish, it's Scottish.
Get that out of here.
Yeah, so for the Americans who've been telling me anything MC, Q, or MC, you was wrong. But so Alexander McQueen, that's the whole.
I think he's the GOAT, man. I mean, I think his concepts, everything he did was just organic. Right. The way he did runway shows there was a controversy whether he's more of a showman than a designer. And I've always liked to do things on runways where it's not the average runway is you put stuff on it to sell that right now. Like, this is
so
the goal.
Not really like putting together a show
to make people be like, oh damn, I want to look more into this brand now and buy everything that they selling. Like, he would do things more in the sense of like, this is what this collection's vibe is gonna be. So he would make like stuff that you can't even wear anymore because it's just costumes to an extent, themes and stuff, and then that's the basis of the collection.
So it's more than just like you go to like a Macy's fashion show,
for
right?
sure. Yeah.
Where somebody see it, they like it. This
most
was more
big
like,
fashion shows are filled with like buyers in the front rows from stores and boutiques to where they do that, which is dope.
So it's about the sell, really.
Yeah, correct.
Not really about putting on the experience.
But if you do it right, it could be both.
You could do both. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. That's so like a lot of my shows, I try to theme it to certain things and do stuff. A lot of times I finesse like a piece that you know I can't sell this to somebody because it's not something that they could put on without me being there probably. Right. But you can find something that is going to give you that same vibe as that piece. That's and dope. Its actual wearable product. You know.
What was the hardest thing about like transitioning from like, okay, we just gonna print shirts to like now I'm sewing. And like understanding how sleeves and hems and all of this stuff, putting pockets on something, right? How was that? What was that process?
I mean, honestly, that process, like, it was just, I didn't even feel that process. I was just going. Like, I feel like that was my school, you know? You go to college, majority of people, they go to college, you got to do your due diligence. You spend 3 to 6, 7 years, and then you hit the streets running.
And hope you get a job.
And I hope you get a job, and then probably quit everything and become an artist. Like, that's a thing, especially down here. But I mean, my thing was like, I got a warehouse for like 3-4 years back in the day, not like 7 years ago when I started, and so that was kind of like my college. I always felt like, so it was just every single day, every night, just, you know, just working. Don't know what we're working on, but we're working and we're learning and we're growing, and I'm experiencing stuff and figuring stuff out. So I felt like my head was just down, like in a tunnel vision, like that whole time.
That's crazy. So my mom probably really gonna appreciate this episode. My mom went to a vocational high school where you had to learn a trade. And fashion merchandise was her thing. So she used to sew. Anybody in our neighborhood who had like pillows on their couch, she sold their couch pillows. But so like
I gotta start doing that.
The sewing aspect of it's crazy. So the sewing aspect, like how you just self-taught, or you got some books, or you went to a class?
Self-taught. I mean, YouTube University when it can. That's anything, but there's nothing like hands-on training. Right. You know, there's people who get hired who have 0 college experience over people who have experience because sometimes they need someone that can just jump in and do the basics of what needs to be done.
Now, when you think about that, though, so do you think like, so I'm assuming I don't think most designers probably don't sew. They probably might just have a vision, and then somebody got to implement the vision, right?
Yeah,
so that was something you wanted to make sure you knew how to do without.
Yeah. A lot of designers, they start off and they don't do that, but they usually aren't like, oh, I'm a designer. And then sometimes they do, but they kind of act like they do. But then you give them a needle, yo, thread this for me. They'd be like, I can't.
They got a guy for that, right?
So, I mean, but the goal is always to do as little as possible and more at the same time.
So when you growing that, how hard is that going to be to just find the right people?
I mean, there's definitely way better seamstress out there than me. Even now, I'm starting to kind of like take my hands off a little bit. Putting more stuff out. Like when it comes to certain pieces, I'm trying to get more people, like different seamstresses I worked with, a few projects, we bring different people in, interns and stuff. So
that's dope.
I mean, it's definitely beneficial to have other people do it so I can kind of do more and oversee stuff and focus on the overall goal of something. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like it's, if you don't know how to do it, like, you know what I mean? Like,
I got you.
You got to be able to do stuff if everybody backs out. Something happens, like, you got to be able to jump in and fix something, like, you know, like.
So, like, talk to me about, so now that I'm thinking, like, when you going to get to a point where you're going to be really hands off and just focus on the vision, like, for the young person that's, like, thinking about starting a fashion, like, what advice would you give to them? Or something you might have wanted to do different now that you've been in it? Yeah. Starting out, what advice could you give to that person?
I mean, I always tell people just, you got to take that first step. That's all it is. Like we were saying earlier, I had no idea I could do any of this. I mean, in high school, I mean, being a photographer, being a videographer, being any type of artist, unless you're like a rapper or something, like, it doesn't seem realistic, but that's unless somebody comes to you and puts it in front of your face, and be like, this is the first step you gotta take. You could have just gave me a camera and be like, yo, boom. A lot of people, they get put on like that. Like, that's someone could have pulled up on me and been like, hey, look, we're making clothes. Pull up to this one day, and then my whole life would have been different. Maybe, but of course, you know what I mean? Like, just taking that first step is, I always feel like that's everything. Everybody's always like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then I talk to them and be like, so what's stopping you? And they're like, they run in circles, but it never is anything really stopping them, except for themselves. They in the way. Exactly. So, but once you take that first step, like, you'll know if it's something that you have to keep going. Like, you'll just know. That's dope. Like, so, and if you let it go, then perfect. You got it out your system. You ain't got to do it. Like,
what keeps you motivated to keep coming out with these pieces, man? We definitely gonna have to do some B-roll of some of these pieces. What motivates you? Like, do you go to another country and like, let me study what they doing in France?
I think the power's in the people, bro. Like, I'm a very secluded person. For the most part, you know, I keep my circle very small. I feel like I absorb a lot of energy very quickly. So I try to, you know, harness it when I can.
So you're just quiet.
I'm quiet, but I'm listening. I'm feeling everything. I'm understanding more than people talking. Like,
I got you.
You know what I mean? But I mean, everything that goes on in the world, everything that's going on in the news, in our neighborhood, in our community, all that stuff affects me, and I keep that in mind. And like I said, fashion is like my tool of empowerment. Got you. So I'm not a musician. I don't speak. I don't do stuff. Like, I do stuff through this. Like we were saying, we touch all these models with the clothes. We give people that first step, basically. So by doing that, like, I'm doing my part here. You know what I mean?
So with these big visions that you got of these pieces, you got the same problem that I have. You always wear black. Black is like your uniform, right?
Today I'm wearing gray, bro.
So like, this is, you like,
caught me on a
bro. That's like my uniform, like all
it's
black.
Safe, bro. Before going out, I have all this stuff. Boom, boom. Black tee, bro. Black jeans, black boots. I mean, I think it's certain people, bro. That's just yeah, it's like I'm here, but I'm not here if I don't need it.
That's been always like my go-to. Like,
I mean, I make the clothes.
A black tee from H&M, nice black pant.
I'm dropping some new black tees, long sleeve black tees. Solid, simple.
See, that's
just
my lane.
Just in case.
Even y'all can't see Gene right now. Gene got all black on behind the camera.
I actually have a whole crate of those black tees. And
really?
I haven't even embroidered them yet. I've just been pulling them out, just wearing them.
That's crazy. That's
just because I need more black tees.
That's the uniform, like all black, like the Omen. So
it's the uniform. Go through your daily process and shit.
That's dope. So what you think is one of the biggest misconceptions about the fashion industry?
I wouldn't say.
Well, I'll say that, right?
Yeah.
So my best friend is Kanye's cousin. Leah, please don't shoot me for putting your name out there. But he spent a lot of money just trying to learn that industry in fashion, right? So, like, they didn't want him in that industry at all, right? So, like, when I say the misconceptions, like, without just getting into it, how hard is it to really break through the noise?
No, I get what you're saying. I mean, I feel like the conception that everybody has of the industry is pretty true.
Really?
And I think the misconception would be of how difficult it can be to actually start doing stuff in it, I guess.
Gotcha.
Because, I mean, I think the fashion industry needs to be broken into. It needs to be tampered with. It needs to be reconstructed. A lot of the fashion industry is, like we're talking about, mainly the shows are for buyers and stuff. Right. So it's losing its purpose as to what fashion really represents. I mean, fashion is like one of the top 3 most damaging things for the environment. Wow. Like, because of the amount of fast fashion, the clothes, all this stuff, that it's not good for the environment. Like, where does clothes go when it's done?
I just seen an article about Coach starting.
They're starting what?
They gonna start. I don't know if they gonna. Basically, when something is out of season, they just trash everything.
Correct. Yeah.
So now they starting to
like Louis
think
Vuitton
about
does stuff like that too. If it's damaged, they trash it.
Yeah.
I mean, they probably won't. Like,
you don't think so?
I feel like brands like that, like Louis Vuitton, like all these top brands. For one, it's been so long since they were established.
Gotcha.
The founders are gone.
Of course.
The original morals of it are gone. They're under new creative directors every year. They're doing whatever it takes to like stay in the game.
Gotcha.
So like, I feel like they're gonna do whatever's relevant.
They don't
at
care
this
about
point,
the environment.
Like that's why also like with McQueen, I feel like that's one of the only brands like it still feels like his stuff.
Right.
Like he hasn't gotten to a point where everything's so affordable for everybody. Yeah. It's still expensive.
I see these sneakers. Everybody wears Alexander McQueen sneakers.
But those are like good quality stuff. But it's like it has the same vibe. Like he has that darkness. With a little bit of light and stuff.
I had to get me a pair, man. I went to the mall and I'm like, oh, how much is a pair of them?
How much are they?
Like $650.
Good.
And it looks like an Adidas.
It does, yeah.
Like it looks like an Adidas.
You're not paying for the shoe.
It's the quality and the name.
McQueen.
It's the brand.
Yeah.
I be telling people how important the personal brand to anything is. Like people that know me from the music business, I never went by my real name. Right. So I just started personal branding in 2018, like going by my real. So people in the photography space know me as Da Vinci. People in the music space know me as B-Dot. So this Barion McQueen, nobody knew. And I'm like, this is really me. This is the real me.
Cat in the game,
but I'm not new. So it's like, and it's just like, it's like I have these different audiences that I'm just trying to bring together. Just because I'm just all around a creative. So it's just like, if it's photography, if it's music, if it's whatever it is, let's all bring it together. So like, what's your goal for I wouldn't say 2021. I would say
we got
over that's the game be over, right? So what's
out, bro?
So what's the next 5 years? Where you want to see Tony Visions? What's the vision for Tony Visions?
For the brand Tony Visions, man, I mean, we have a lot going on this year that we're trying to finish off strong, that hopefully will set the key for the rest of the brand. Okay. So, I mean, the goal is, to have everything just running like clockwork. I mean, our productions, that's one of my biggest things. The visuals we put out, the concepts, I just need them to be like crystal clear,
Gotcha.
Like I said, I speak through my clothes. I want every collection has meaning to it. It's inspired by stuff. I have messages. I just want that stuff to just be out.
So is it? Would you want to keep Tony Visions like you direct consumer to the public, or is this something like we might see it in a
No, I mean, I want it to be like a household brand type thing. I think within 5 years, I mean, we definitely can do something like that.
That's dope.
Like, we've been just pumping out inventory, and we've been sitting on inventory until it's ready to be purchased at, you know, the level it should be.
Okay.
So, like, we've been working on the brand name, the image of it. And I mean, we have closets full of stuff, like stacks and stacks worth of stuff.
That's dope.
And
So,
ideally, the price should just be going up.
So tell me about the new collection. Introduce that new, the Genesis we was talking
so the
about.
Genesis collection.
What's behind that?
The Genesis collection is based on, you know, the book of Genesis from the Bible. I'm really big on faith and all that stuff. So, I mean, this is me rebranding the company. So there's nothing, I don't feel like there's a better story of rebranding than the Genesis.
Genesis, right.
Genesis is based on the beginning,
of course,
the failure, and then the beginning one more time.
Nice.
Like, that's what it is. So I'm literally, like, there's a lot of scripts that are going to be quoted into the clothing.
Oh, that's dope.
There's a lot of different stuff, like in the visuals, the video that we're doing a short film that's going to be out in probably by the end of this end of October.
Okay.
So it's a full short film. We're going to be hitting film festivals. We're going to be knocking stuff. Like, we're doing it. Like, fashion is more than just clothing.
Of course.
It's a whole
presentation now, right?
Yeah. So we're doing that. So
that's dope, man.
Yeah. So be on the lookout. I mean, might be out already, but we're gonna be just letting it just leak out for the rest of this year. Like, just let them.
I want to wrap this interview up. Is there any last words you want to give to the people here on the Everyday Game Changers podcast?
Man, shout out to you, the man right here. It's the GOAT right here.
Appreciate it.
Anything, but shout out to you know, Vision House Studios. That's our studio out here in Wynwood.
Okay.
The whole team, M. Hersey, you know, go-to photographer. We here, Tony Visions. Be on the lookout.
That's it, man. I'm your host, Barion McQueen. You've been tuned into another episode of the Everyday Game Changers. Everyday people changing the game. My boy David Woods, the vision behind Tony Visions, man, and we out.